This is your yearly astrological forecast for Libra 2022. January through March. This astrology forecast is for those who have their sun in Libra or a Libra Ascendant, also known as rising sign. As a Libra, your ruling planet is Venus, which is about love, desire, pleasure, and your attraction or repulsion to anything. Your element is air and your mode is cardinal. You as a Libra are a cardinal air sign, which means you initiate communication and socialization. Libra's symbol is the scales. Many people believe the Libra scales to be about balance, which is true. Scales balance things. However, things in your life aren't always balanced. You can become off balance. If we look closely at the symbolic images of the scales, we'll see on one side of the scale is your soul. On the other side of the scale is a feather. A feather is light. A soul carries the scars or impressions imprinted on it from many lifetimes. Even if you take just this one lifetime, the experiences you are living would be heavy from the wear and tear life has on your soul. So the scales seem to represent more about judgment than balance. Therefore, if you are a Libra, you may find yourself trying to balance your life by making decisions based on judgments pertaining to what you value in importance. Libra is a social sign that oftentimes puts everyone else before their own needs. Judgment is a part of everyone's life. We are all part of the 12 signs of the zodiac and the planets within it. Your life just happens to be more focused in this area. The key to a Libra is not so much their judgment, but their discernment. Libras love being there for everyone. However, it isn't always possible to do. Let's say a friend is having a crisis, another friend is having a party. You're weighing out which friend to go see. Another example, you're at work and your child calls and says he needs to be picked up from school because he's sick. Your boss tells you if you leave work, you'll be fired. You use your judgment and discernment over these matters. A Libra would most likely quit their job if left with no choice. However, Libras are loved by many. They have connections with lots of people, and so they'd most likely find a friend to pick up their child from school and watch them until they got off work. Librans are primarily about relationships, pulling people together, and providing security and harmony. Therefore, Librans are great friends and companions. They'll always be there for you. Communication is a strong suit for Librans in that they have this innate ability to make you feel comfortable to talk about anything with them. In January, Saturn is in fixed air Aquarius in your 5th house of joy, creativity, betting, gambling, love affairs, and children, forming a harmonious aspect or trine to your sun and ascendant in your 1st house of self. During this time, you can get a great deal done. Saturn is maturity and really pushes you to live up to obligations and responsibilities. Responsibilities with your children may take on a new burden. Many parents are homeschooling now, and this may be one burden that you are taking on, standing up for your children and their rights. Saturn represents the government, rules, laws, and fear. This may be slowing down the fun and joy of the 5th house for you. Saturn is in the key word inspiration, which is about using your creative imagination to convey your ideas in a convincing manner for the good of yourself and humanity. This is a good time to overcome obstacles as it relates to your 5th house. Others will recognize your achievements. Working on bettering yourself is a primary focus with this aspect. Saturn in a trine to your sun ascendant is preparing you for when Saturn opposes your sun ascendant, which will challenge your marriage and business partnerships. Regarding Saturn in a trine to your ascendant, this is a wonderful time in your life where you establish respect from others. People will come to realize that you know what you are doing. People will recognize you as dependable and reliable. Librans tend to be late for appointments and meetings. One thing leads to another and time slips away. This is a time where you should be focused on your determination to be on time and reliable, a time where you are disciplined. The drawback to the maturing discipline and responsibility is it may be hard for you to make changes when needed. You may find yourself acting conservatively because you're thinking in old ways that don't really solve your new problems. Try not to conserve yourself too much where you don't allow yourself to get out and meet new people. You may need help from someone new that you can learn from. Also starting off the new year, Venus, Pluto, and Mercury in Cardinal Earth Capricorn in your fourth house of home and family form a stellium, creating a square or disharmonious aspect to your Sun ascendant in your first house of self. Venus represents love, desire, your attraction and repulsion, pleasure, and your relationship to things. Mercury represents your mind or everyday thinking. Pluto represents quantum change, upheaval, evolution, the hidden and secretive, and things below the surface. Pluto has been in your fourth house of home and family since 2008, so you've been experiencing Pluto's method of diving below the surface to cleanse, purify, and heal family relationships. This is also about transforming your home. It can also be about you moving to another house or location. Depending on your individual chart, you may move to a different part of the country you live in or a different country. Pluto, Mercury, Venus squaring your Sun ascendant may spark some deep fundamental changes, especially in your psyche. However, this isn't sudden change. It's been happening for a decade. Many childhood issues have come to the surface for you to heal during this long time period, so you can face them, heal them, and move on. The stellium forms harmonious aspects to the nodes, so your past and future are supported by the transformation happening in your life. February 4th, the Sun transits into Aquarius in your fifth house of joy, creativity, and children in an exact conjunction to Saturn. This will support you and everything Saturn represents in your life. This harmonious aspect, a few days before and after the exact conjunction, will really have you focused on your responsibilities, duties, and obligations. Your ascendant or rising sign is said to represent your personality, or how people view your personality. Your ascendant is also believed to be your life mission. So your personality, or how people see you now, may be in a way that is inspiring. However, your inspiration will more than likely be through the lens of getting things achieved by your determination, strictness to your own rules, responsibilities, and obligations. Remember, Libras love to interact, communicate, socialize, and be there for everyone. However, during the transit of Saturn, and for the few days when the Sun passes by, you will have this Saturnian force within you that keeps you on point or on track. On March 3rd, Mars will form an exact conjunction to Saturn, who is still in your fifth house. Mars represents action and reaction, aggression, willpower, drive, courage, and war. Saturn is rules, laws, restraints, constraints, fear, and anxiety. This aspect trines your first house of self and ascendant. Saturn stifles Mars's energy. You may find yourself frustrated and irritated today or for a few days. During this time, it is advised you follow your normal routine activities instead of trying to push yourself into something new. This is a good transit to concentrate and focus on your work, your children, or doing things you enjoy. People can cause you to be overly agitated, where you may find yourself becoming angry inside. Find a way to release your emotions. Physical exercise is a good way to get rid of anger. Be careful if you're using heavy equipment or dangerous tools. This aspect can be a sign of an accident. However, if you're cautious and careful, you'll get through this transit just fine. April through June. On April 11th, Jupiter will form an exact conjunction with Neptune in Pisces in your sixth house of work, service, and health. Neptune represents divine love, unity consciousness, sensitivity, dreams, illusion, delusion, illusion, and disillusionment. Neptune is the planet of spirituality and channeling. Neptune has been in your sixth house for many years, so you may have been feeling at times very confused about your job. You may also have a health condition that is hard to get a diagnosis because doctors can't seem to pinpoint what is wrong with you. This is a time you need to be extra careful with your health. Eat good foods and exercise if you can. This can be a time where you can get sick easily, especially with infections. Be especially careful if you drink alcohol or take drugs. Even prescription medications can cause the body to weaken. You may want to go do a cleanse that allows your body to clean and clear its organs so your immune system can function properly. Jupiter is the planet of optimism, growth, expansion, and abundance. Whatever experiences Neptune is having in your life, Jupiter will magnify them either in a positive or negative way. Jupiter is a positive planet. However, if you are going through an emotional time, Jupiter may magnify your emotions. If you are having dreams that you don't quite understand, Jupiter will intensify those dreams. You may find yourself very deluded or confused by your dreams. If you are a healer and do channeling work, you may gain extraordinary abilities during this time. Neptune Jupiter in the third decanate of Pisces is in the keyword vicissitudes, which is the last 10 degrees of Pisces before it completes its 165-year cycle around the zodiac. This transit will never happen in your life again. Vicissitudes referred to here is about many things. First, it has to do with adopting and advocating for things that will prepare the soul for existence after death. For Libras, that may have the ability to heal and channel energy. You may be able to communicate with those who have crossed over, or at the very least, help people who are dying or who have loved ones who need healing due to the stressful circumstances of losing a loved one. You may also become disillusioned by your own abilities and think you can stop illness or death from occurring. This isn't your fault. Neptune magnified by Jupiter is like seeing things through a very thick fog. You can't see or understand, and you rely upon your beliefs and feelings to guide you. Vicissitudes also refers to recapitulating your life in new areas such as career. We spoke of Pluto in your fourth house of home and family and how that correlates to change, upheaval, and possibly moving. Neptune Jupiter in this placement may mean changing jobs. Or if you do service volunteer work, it can also be changing that as well. The key here is you want to embrace the change in exciting ways. You don't want to allow these planets to impact you negatively where you're stuck. If your sun or rising sign is in the last 10 degrees of Libra, this transit will affect you deeply, since Jupiter and Neptune in your 6th house form an inconjunction to your 1st house of self, how other people see you and your life mission. You may find yourself being of more service to humanity during this time. You could also be having ego issues. Neptune works to dissolve the ego. If a person comes into your life romantically or idealistically, you may find yourself in Neptune's fog where you're not seeing the person for who they truly are. This may be a new boss, new coworker, new lover, or anyone new in your life. You will probably see them through the lens of your Neptunian transit, and once the transit is over, you'll realize the valuable lesson they taught you. On May 15th, Jupiter moves into Aries, so the Neptune-Jupiter effects will be over. Neptune's influence will still be present for several more years. However, Jupiter's influence of excessively magnifying the emotional water field of Neptune in Pisces will be over. On May 17th, Mars forms an exact conjunction to Neptune. Mars is action and reaction, anger, drive, assertion, and willpower. This may cause you anger or discourage you from doing anything. Irritability can come from this transit, and oftentimes you won't be able to understand why. You may feel weak or have feelings of inferiority, especially in the realm of work and service. You may also feel helpless if you have an illness that the medical field can't diagnose or help relieve your symptoms. The good news is the feelings you'll be experiencing will be short-lived since Mars moves out of this aspect rather quickly. Mars will, however, spark these feelings in you because he is the planet of action. He is activating Neptune's energy in a way that denies the ego what it wants. Mars is an egotistical planet, so you'll find the field you are working in or serving in that your ego will have a hard time dealing with situations. Don't do or say anything or even start any new projects during this time because you won't be thinking clearly. Wait until Mars has moved on, which will be by the end of May. July through September. All last year and all of this year up to this point, Saturn has been in a square to Uranus in fixed Earth Taurus. Uranus represents freedom, liberation, independence, uniqueness, shock, technology, and reactivity to authority. Saturn is authority, representing the government, boss, or CEO. Uranus is in your 8th house of your subconscious, shared money and possessions, debt, and death. Uranus is the awakener, for he represents enlightened thinking. And Saturn is in Aquarius, which is the house Uranus rules, and they are squaring off. Saturn is cutting off or restricting you. He has moved into the keyword repression. Repression is about becoming unrepressed. However, Saturn is repression. Saturn in repression in your 5th house of joy, creativity, and children is in a disharmonious aspect to Uranus in your 8th house in the keyword struggle. Struggle represents the combat over mental and physical forces where they are focused. Uranus 8th house will not work slowly. Suddenly you may be shocked or have a sudden psychological insight. Maybe your spouse or business partner spent all your money. Or maybe they made a ton of money in a way you never dreamed possible. Uranus 8th house can be making a lot of money suddenly or losing it suddenly. The 5th house of betting and gambling with Saturn squaring Uranus may be saying be careful with your investments. Research diligently before committing to something. Your finances may not be stable during this transit. Expect fluctuations in income. This can also mean experiencing the sudden loss of someone that affects your life and may even change your life. You may receive an inheritance. However, this transit through Taurus lasts several more years, so you may or may not have this experience this year. Or you may have already experienced this since Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018 and will remain there until 2026. Saturn in your house of joy may be stifling your creativity, but also may be stifling you because of the government's rules, laws, restrictions, and mandates. This may be restricting your social interactions and affecting your ability to communicate with others, or say what you want to say on social media. If you're standing up for your child or children at school, you may find your voice not being heard because these people who have been put in positions are following government procedures and protocols in the name of health and safety. Uranus is enlightening you to their lies and propaganda if you have the eyes to see it and the ears to understand it. Psychologically, you are waking up to the realization you have been trapped in this matrix and the restrictions on your psyche are wanting to break free. Uranus is the freedom your mind is seeking, so you may find yourself rebelling against restrictions, against your children, and against yourself. Propaganda is a war for your mind, to control your mind and your thoughts and ideas. Uranus will allow this to occur within your psyche until you rebel against that which is restricting, repressing, and depressing you. Meditation is a great way to go beyond the limitations of the lower mind, Mercury, and connect to your higher wisdom mind, Uranus, and experience freedom beyond the limitations of the physical world. The good news is Uranus is conjunct the North Node, the future, or where you want to be headed. This opposes the South Node, the past, or where you don't want to be headed. The South Node is in your 2nd house of money, possessions, and things you like and want. The keyword for the South Node in Scorpio is responsibility, which represents the responsibility to the evolutionary life force within you, or the Kundalini. Many people misuse their powers and abilities on focusing on purely material aims, thus your 2nd house of materiality. The higher part of responsibility is getting in tune with the cosmic consciousness and focusing your aim on truly spiritual heights, of which comes the strength of spiritual powers and abilities. Falling back on past behaviors of the South Node is where you don't want to be headed, which is too much focus on materiality. You are striving towards Uranus conjunct the North Node in struggle. You want to combat the forces at play that seem to be fighting against you by the use of your enlightened mind. The polarization of the two nodes can seem confusing. However, the higher end of responsibility is meditation, working with the Kundalini to reach higher states of consciousness, which opens up the mind to Uranus's enlightened ways of thinking and understanding. The two nodes work together as long as they are focused on the spiritual understanding of solving an issue. Then, on the physical plane, you can take your knowledge and wisdom and combat the government or your boss or your school board or whomever from an enlightened perspective. You have transcended the problem, put yourself in a state of consciousness where you are not affected by the hate spewed out of the mouths of people doing things that go against your beliefs, go against your freedom and independence. Mars will conjunct the North Node in Uranus on August 1st. He'll be propelling you into action, which can cause rash behavior if you're not careful. Sudden things may happen which are unexpected. Don't be surprised if your plans have to change during this time. You may want to exert your freedom and actively participate in knocking down the limitations that are preventing you from freedom. Be careful, because acting out can cause accidents. However, usually accidents don't occur. This is more about going up against those who are repressing your freedoms. This is a good thing because during this time you'll want to act or fight for what you believe to be right and just. You should know Uranus will not lose to Saturn's ways. You may feel at times like everything is falling apart. That is because it is, and is supposed to. Pluto is the destructive process of tearing down structures to build anew. Psychologically and physically, he must expose the darkness lurking below the surface so that you and all of humanity can understand what is happening in our minds, our lives, and our governments around the world. The middle of August through the end of the month, Mercury transits your 12th house in Virgo. The 12th house is a very mystical house of karma, spirituality, but also of isolation and withdrawal from the world. Mercury will be in his home sign of Virgo in a harmonious aspect to Pluto in Capricorn in your 4th house of home and family. Mercury will be in a harmonious aspect to the North Node and Uranus, forming an opposition to Neptune in Pisces, and an in conjunction to Saturn. Mercury, your mind, in your 12th house is in the keyword experience, and then moves into the keyword renunciation. Experience referred to here is the experience of good and evil. This only lasts a few days to a week, however. Your mind will be challenged. It'll see the darkness of the world. It'll be confused and disillusioned by Neptune, and it'll have an opportunity to see the good in the world as well. Renunciation is about stepping back from the world because you need time to reflect on why the world is the way it is. This is a wonderful time to spend time alone, even just for a few minutes a day, to meditate, pray, go within, and connect to a higher source. This will give you peace, calm, and understanding you need to deal with all the circumstances life is throwing at you. October through December. Oftentimes we feel the last 45 days leading up to our birthday is a challenging time. This is because the sun is finishing his intention he set with himself a year prior on your last birthday. As the intention comes to completion, many things must happen before a new intention can be set. Towards the end of September, the sun will enter your 1st house of self. This is the time of your solar return or birthday. Moving into the middle of October, the sun will enter the 3rd or spiritual decanate of Libra in the keyword expiation. Those of you born with your sun in the last 10 degrees should really be aware of the importance of this position. You should understand the keyword for your spirit, your illumination, where you are to shine, purify, and heal. Expiation refers to those who transgress their morals either by the laws of man or of God, the source, the ground of being, the universal principle of creative intelligence, or any other word you want to describe the higher power of all that is. Expiation has to do with using the brilliancy of your mind to either live a straightforward and moral life by using your abilities to help others, or as you rise in life, using your power and talents to keep your fellow man suppressed in ignorance and poverty and profit by what you are doing. Basically, it's about going against society or humanity for your own selfish reasons, maybe even doing things that take away their freedoms and liberties and using them to make money. Instead, treating people fairly and justly, sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and power with others, plus sharing the money you make will help them prosper. Venus will be conjunct the sun in your 1st house of self and your ascendant. Your personality should shine during this time, and you should be focused on yourself and mission in life. The Sun-Venus form a trine to Saturn in Aquarius and a trine to Mars-Moon in Gemini. Trines are the best aspect possible. All these planets are in harmony in air signs, forming an air grand trine, the very best aspect possible. Air has to do with communication. Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius in the keyword inspiration, so you will probably be working diligently on a passion of yours. Mars, Moon are in your 9th house of philosophy, religion, higher education, and long journeys in the keyword reason, which is about enlightened thinking. You may be learning things of interest to you about philosophy, religion, or taking a trip that teaches you firsthand about these topics. During this time, communication is in harmony for you, so you'll be wanting to share with others what you've learned and hopefully impacting people's lives in a positive way with what you know. I see this as a wonderful sign because you'll be learning how to apply topics of higher knowledge to your life. You may even use what you've learned to get out of Saturn's rules, laws, and mandates. Mars will square Neptune in your house of work, service, and health. So you may be putting into action what you've learned in higher learning to combat an issue at work or with the healthcare system. Maybe you get a religious exemption so you can be seen at the hospital, or continue at work, or with a service you provide while upholding your religious and spiritual beliefs. Mars trines Saturn during this time, so I believe the government will allow religious exemptions for you and your child during this time. Mars is also about fighting back with your knowledge and wisdom, and I see whatever challenge you face, you are able to overcome it. In December, the year ends almost as it began with the planetary placements. However, Mars moves retrograde, staying in Gemini through the end of the year. He'll be propelling you into realms of higher education and higher learning. Whether you're a college student or just learning about things to educate yourself, Mars will be pushing you to act on what you're learning. He'll reinforce in you truths and beliefs that support your life. He'll give you drive and ambition to succeed from the knowledge he's obtained, and he wants you to share this knowledge and wisdom. Share it with anyone who will listen to what you have to say. You will be supported and people will be attracted to you. Use what you've learned to help people. Remember, Libra is about the scales. Are you holding on to what you know to benefit you or benefit yourself as well as others? Please subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up if you like this video. To have a personal astrology reading with me, visit astrologywithjeffreybryan.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at astrologywithjeffreybryan or on Getter at Jeffrey Bryan. You can also subscribe to my blog at my website astrologywithjeffreybryan.com, and also various types of meditations can also be found on my website. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.